Once heavily recruited Bear Alexander, a defensive tackle now at USC, or was at USC, is now once again in the transfer portal. Bear Alexander is a guy that people ask, well, why? This is an SEC channel. Why are we talking about this? Because Bear Alexander, quite simply, is one of the most talented, high ceiling defensive line prospects in the country. There is no doubt about that. And with the rule that SEC schools cannot take intra-conference transfers, so you can't go from one SEC school to another at this point in the year, with the deadline already having passed for that. SEC schools that need defensive line improvement have to look outside the conference. So Bear Alexander seems naturally, yes, give me that talent, right? But there are some things that you need to consider, and there are a couple of key guys, key schools that are going to be involved in this decision that we have to examine. Is it worth the risk? And we'll get into that here in just a second. Hello, everyone. I'm Blaine Gilmer. Welcome into SEC Unfiltered, the best SEC entity on the internet, where we're constantly putting out football content for you, also some basketball and baseball related content as well, but football is our main focus here. We would love it if you would like, subscribe, turn on notifications. That's greatly appreciated, because when you do, we're able to pass along some nice little discounts to you, like this one with our partner RHOBACK.com. That's RHOBACK.com. If you haven't heard about Roback, well, listen up, because if you like performance polos, just comfortable clothing that is going to fit you well, that's going to look great, then you need to head over to RHOBACK.com, particularly those performance polos that are moisture wicking, that are four-way stretch. Guys, you're going to love how you look, love how it feels. Also, the Azalea collection, bright colors for the spring. The Masters is this week as we're recording this. So, guys, check out RHOBACK.com. And if you go over there and use our promo code SECU, then you can get 20% off your first purchase over there using that promo code. So, guys, we would greatly appreciate you checking out RHOBACK.com. Get you some very comfortable, very stylish apparel to wear if you're in the need for it this spring, and go over and check out our friends at Roback. Greatly appreciate it. Use that promo code SECU. Now, let's dive into Bear Alexander. 48 tackles this year for USC, a former five-star prospect that we'll get into his SEC pass in just a minute. But 48 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, just a couple of sacks on the year, batted down 4 passes. Bear Alexander, the talent is not the issue. He's always been talented. Bear Alexander can play football. He's 6'3", over 300 pounds, quick twitch guy, has heavy hands at the beginning, so he can play the run. He can get after the passer from the interior of the defensive line. He can move up and down the defensive line depending on the personnel and the down and distance situation. So Bear Alexander is someone that, listen, NFL teams are going to have interest in one day. But just like any personnel decision, it goes beyond what is on the field, right? Let's not forget that Bear Alexander started his career at Georgia. He was a highly touted freshman that moved around. Okay, that was part of the issue there. He moved around. He was committed to Georgia, decommitted, committed somewhere else, then ended up decommitting from them, came back to Georgia as a commit. So when it comes to Bear Alexander, the biggest question is the talent, is the amount of production you're going to get worth the risk that he brings with them? Okay. And when it comes down to it, there's 2 schools, and you see their helmets behind me, Texas and LSU, that are being linked to SEC schools, that are being linked to Bear Alexander. And the biggest question I would have if I was sitting across from Sarkisian or Kelly here in a informal setting where I it wasn't on the record, anything like that, and I could just inject a little truth serum and get their response, I would ask them, is the potential of Bear Alexander coming in and being maybe an all conference caliber player 1 year, because he's going to the league after that, is that worth the risk when you know that he is a potential locker room problem? And why do I say he's a locker room problem? I'm not talking anything about, personally, I can't speak to things with player relationship with players and things like that. Although things did not end well at Georgia, there was definitely some strife between some people at Georgia, both coaches and players, and Bear Alexander, and he moves on to USC. But guys, this is Bear Alexander's 7th school that he will be going to in a 7-year span. 4 in high school. This will be his 3rd college. This is not maybe necessarily even a Bear Alexander problem. And what do I mean by that? The coach of the UConn Huskies men's basketball team, Dan Hurley, that just led his team to back-to-back national championships in men's college basketball and just dominated through the NCAA tournament, was recently quoted in a interview talking about how when they go about selecting players to be a part of their program, they look heavily into the parents. Because if a kid has gone to what he said, 6 or 7 different travel ball teams, 4 or 5 different high schools, then they probably don't want them because the parents are not holding their child accountable, and they are actually enabling a entitled behavior where they go around and they don't handle any kind of adversity. They seek the easiest route, and they seek what's selfishly best for their son or their daughter or whatever it is that you're looking for. In this case, with Dan Hurley, a son, of course. But when it comes down to it, guys, this is a major problem when it surrounds Bear Alexander here. He's got people that aren't his parents that are involved in these situations, whether it's handlers, whether it's trainers, mentors, whatever. But you have some blood-sucking leeches that care more about Bear Alexander as a meal ticket, about getting a percentage of whatever he's going to get, than they do care about Bear Alexander himself. Because if it was about development, he would have stayed at Georgia and developed under Kirby Smart. Zero doubts about that. Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, what they've done with interior defensive linemen just in the last few years alone, with the Devontae Wyatts, with Jordan Davis, with Jalen Carter. Heck, Bear Alexander played beside Jalen Carter in the national championship game against TCU. They were just blowing him out so bad that as a freshman, he had started to earn more and more playing time, but they let him just really kind of turn loose in that game. And he made some nice plays. He had some tackles for a loss, had a sack. I mean, Bear Alexander had an opportunity, but Bear Alexander cares more about what can I get out of a situation than he does of, okay, how am I going to be a part of a team? How am I going to develop? How am I going to win? How am I going to be viewed by scouts at the next level? And are these red flags that I'm just stacking up in my bag back here, are they going to hamper me going forward? Listen, everybody, there's extenuating circumstances, and if a coach is leaving, or if there is mistreatment or something like that, then yes, I understand a player leaving. But when it is a pattern where you've been to 4, really 5, because one he didn't get to go play at, but 4 high schools that you've played at, and then 3 colleges now, my question to Steve Sarkisian and Brian Kelly is it worth it? Is it worth it bringing in a guy who you know is going to be superior talent, but he could absolutely just drop a stick of dynamite into your culture that you're building, into your locker room? Because Texas and LSU are both on the precipice, I believe, of getting to the point where their culture is in a good enough spot where it will allow them to win. Allow them to get to national championship level. And what are you saying to your players if you're willing to take a guy that has been everywhere over the last 7 years and really would just be a mercenary for your team in 2024? So that's my question, guys. Please let us know in the comments if you would take Bear Alexander on your team. And are we overthinking the moving around? Are we overthinking the team dynamic? Are those days gone? Is it all about just collecting the most talent? Listen, Texas and LSU, no doubt, need interior defensive linemen. Both. That is the weakness of both teams. I think you could make an argument for Texas because Bear Alexander originally is from Texas. And then when it comes down to it, LSU has Bo Davis. Okay. If he's looking for a defensive line coach who Bo Davis came from Texas back to LSU. If you're looking for a defensive line coach that's going to develop you, there's no guy that arguably is better than Bo Davis that's going to help you out there. But I don't know, guys. Both of them have been linked to it. Of course, Deion Sanders will be into the conversation as well. But this is a guy who undoubtedly, whether the NFL scouts say he's ready or not, he's going to be gone. He's going to bolt from your program after this. Is it worth the headache? Is it worth what is surrounding Bear Alexander and having to deal with that and having to bring forth the resources needed, because he's not coming for free, right? He's testing the market for sure is what he's doing in this transfer portal move once again in the middle of spring ball, like he did to Georgia, doing the same thing to USC. I would not take Bear Alexander on my team. I do not think it's worth the culture, but you guys may be different. Let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Head on over to roback.com. Use promo code SECU to get 20% off. We thank you so much for tuning in. You can follow me on X using @BGilmer18. You can follow the channel using @SEC Unfiltered on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X. Go over to the website, secunfiltered.com, to check out all of our written content as well. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. God bless you, and we'll catch you next time to talk more SEC football right here on the best SEC entity on the internet, SEC Unfiltered.